there pickles, I hope you are all well. It is day 14 of Vlogmas. How the time is flying, otherwise known as the 13th of December. You will have seen I have opened day 13 of my yarny advent calendars and they are looking rather stunning. So got a gorgeous, again just a quick recap for those of you who may not know which advent calendars it is that I'm opening. So these here are from my Cat Sandwich Fibres advent calendar, and today's one was this amazing sort of moody navy, dark navy with some yellows and some creams in there too. I have a grumpy puss who's sitting up here because I'm not letting him sit on my lap, and therefore just a terrible, terrible cat parent. But yes, so Cat Sandwich Fibres is here. Then in the centre, the pre-opened bag, so this one here, is an advent calendar I received last year from a homespun house, but I'm opening them again this year on the basis that I have no clue what's inside. And those are the ones I'm working into my granny stripe. And then last but certainly not least, I have this stunning gradient that's working up from Nora George in her amazing, so starting with greys all the way through to blues and then into greens, and now we're into kind of chartreusey territory, and I'm very, very excited about that. But yes, yarny advents aside, it's been another reasonably quiet day over here, so an awful lot of trying to crack on and get some things done. I've started wrapping some presents, I've started shipping some presents to those that require shipping. It's all very exciting, but as I promised, what I thought I would do today is take you through a little bit more of the stash wall that I have behind me, but specifically this time around the sweater quantities of yarn, so those that are along the bottom shelf here, because I took you through, it would have been on Monday, so what's that, day 12? No. Yes. Which day was it? It was day 10, we checked. But yes, I took you through on day 10 some of the other parts of the stash wall, specifically the top 2 rows where I showed off some of the sock yarn that I have, some of the single skeins that I have. But I wanted to set aside a little bit of time to talk you through some of the sweater quantities and perhaps some plans I have for those, because I haven't really left my postcode today, and I've already shown you my postcode this week, so I'm having to get a little bit more creative. But yeah, I know some of you really enjoy when I go out and about and see more of London, and there will definitely be more of that, but today is not one of those days. And so yes, have a little look at my stash, why don't you? So as you will have seen from the podcast, the lower row that I have here on display is organised by colour. Broadly speaking, the majority of these are DK weights. There's a couple of worsted and a few more fingering weights, but for the most part they're DK, because I tend to find that DK weight is really ideal for sweaters for me. They work up reasonably quickly. I can do some fairly kind of fun things without worrying too much about having an excessive amount of yardage. But yeah, it's just a nice balance, although I do have a few fingering weights in here as well, as I've said. And so let's start with focusing on one of the cubby holes that causes me so much bloody consternation when it comes to trying to get it well lit for the podcast, and that is the burgundies and reds. So here we go, you can see the first 2 cubbies here in behind the festive lights, and this first cubby here, the one that causes me all the problems when it comes to lighting it well for the podcast, is my maroons, my burgundies, and a few of the purples as well. So at the bottom here we have some Plucky Cozy, and Plucky Cozy is a gorgeous yarn that has, of course, been discontinued. It is a lovely DK weight blend of merino and baby camel, and I really like it. It's also the base that I used to knit my Ellery sweater, which is the delightfully pond scummy green colour sweater that I was wearing back in the Rhinebeck recap episode. I really like this yarn. It is probably going to pill like a bit of a beast because it's quite loosely spun and loosely plied. Let me see if I can show you up close and personal. There we are, you should be able to see that it is quite loose in its plying, but it is lovely and soft. So next up here we have a few skeins of Madeleine Tosh. I know you're all shocked, and this is in the merino worsted base, which is superwash merino worsted in the Simona colourway, again bought from their website. And then we have 4 beautiful skeins just up here, and these are from Vullenvine. This is her Vampmas base, so very seasonally appropriate in her Volca, sorry, her Vampus colourway on her Volca base, which is her MCN base. I got those as part of a custom order for a sweater. In terms of what they're going to be, there were a few ideas that I had. There's a beautiful sweater called Astrantia, which has quite a nice textured yoke, which I thought would be really pretty with those, but time will tell indefinitely. And then above those are a couple of yarns that I've already shown off on the podcast. This is the Jill Draper Kingston that I brought back from Rhinebeck in the Kingston base in the Hasbrook Avenue, I believe was the name of the colourway. And I did get another couple of skeins. I think I came back with 4 or 5, but I really needed to have a couple more in terms of the yardage I wanted for a cabled sweater. I managed to nab those in an update that she had quite recently, and now I have a few more of those. In terms of specifically what they'll be, no idea, but I know I want it to be cabled, and so there could well be a Thea Coleman with those with their name on it, so we shall see. And then above here I have the Madonna, which again is the work sock that I brought back from Rhinebeck. Work sock is a very versatile base, so I have no doubt that I will come up with an idea for that at some point. And then above there I have a few skeins of Dovestone DK. This is in the Bantam colourway, and I believe Dovestone DK has now been replaced. I might be wrong, I would need to double check that, but I know that Bahram U have got a couple of different bases, and they were looking to move more towards a winter burn base, which is also a really nice one. But this was purchased for a Hawser pullover, which is a Brooklyn tweed pattern that I really like the look of, so that will become that at some point. And then here are just a couple of additional skeins. I think those are I can't quite see if those are O-wool or arbor. Those are O-wool, so that's O-wool fingering, O-wool O-wash fingering, and again I think I've got 3 of those to make a shawl at some point. So yeah, cubby number 1. Hello! So moving along to cubby number 2, I will confess this one might be my favourite. And I mean, you've all presumably watched the podcast and you know how much I rabbit on about how much I love gold. This is very much my happy place, even right down to the corals, which obviously I have a bit of a soft spot for as well, so to speak. Starting down here at the bottom, I have these 6 skeins are Madeleine Tosh. I know, you're all shocked. In the Heartbeat colourway. I'm pretty sure this is the Long Rider DK base, which again is the DK weight base with a mix of merino and nylon in there. In terms of what they were purchased for specifically, I honestly can't remember. I do know that if I really like a colour from Madeleine Tosh, I do tend to buy 5 to 6 skeins of it in DK weight because I know it will make a sweater. I don't necessarily have a specific ideal sweater in mind, but they were bought because you know, they seemed versatile and I really loved the colour. It's a lovely mix of kind of quite plummy orangey reds as well as some sort of black washed reds over the top. These here are a couple of skeins of Brooklyn Tweed Arbor, which was no doubt destined for a hat and likely still will be one, as well as 4 skeins here of Madeleine Tosh MCN Fingering in the blouse colourway. Above those we have 5 skeins, I think there might be a 6th hiding in the back somewhere, of BFL DK by Madeleine Tosh, and that is in the glazed pecan colourway. And again, this was purchased for something lovely and textured, and it was certainly a front runner as well for my morning in Engelberg sweater. It was between this and the DK Twist in Carbon Dating that I eventually used. And I think the only reason I changed from this originally is the BFL DK knits up at a very slightly finer gauge, and I believe the pattern was written for a slightly heavier weight. So yeah, that's those there. Above that you have again more Madeleine Tosh. This is a very Madeleine Tosh centric cubby up till here, in the Foundry colourway that is the Long Rider DK I brought back. I showcased this one back in episode 6, having brought it back from the US. Then I have a little sort of, I have a little muddle of things in together. So I've got my O-wool O-wash fingering weight in mustard seed that I brought back from Rhinebeck over here. Then next to those I have these 3 here, which is Volmisa Blend, which is their MCN base. It's technically a sport weight, but I would say it knits up very happily at a fingering weight. And this is in the Olio Virgine, so the olive oil colourway, or virgin olive oil colourway. And yeah, I really do like the blend base. I've knit a Carpino sweater out of it by Carol Feller. In fact, I think I started a 2nd of those. And yeah, really like knitting with that yarn. And then above it here is yarn from a British hand dyer. This is 4 skeins of just the most deliciously soft and squishy yarn that definitely lives up to its name. It is called Squidge, and it is from Easy Knits. Easy Knits, again, are a UK based dyer. They have a number of different bases, but this one is 80% Polworth and 20% Merino d'Arles. There's my friend's pronunciation doing its excellent best to try and mess it up all over again. You hold it there so you can see. But yeah, this is deliciously soft, and this was purchased earlier in the year at Fibre East with the intention of becoming a wool and honey sweater, which again is probably on the agenda at some point, but not just yet. Hi, still here. So this middle cubby here is a mixture of obviously greens and some neutrals here too. We've got some more plucky cozy down here at the bottom in the Into the Woods colourway, which again is really lovely. It's more of a kind of greenish, sort of oaky colourway is what I want to call it. But yeah, really love that. We've then got a few skeins here, which is my Duck wool that I brought back from the US that I talked about in the Rhinebeck and India Untangled recap here. We have a couple of skeins of Snug Worsted, which again is another plucky yarn in Fiona. Yes, that's in Fiona. I bought a few skeins of plucky Snug Worsted on a D-stash and then a few more from the shop, and they don't match as well as I would like them to, so I'm probably going to have to switch those up. They are now at the point where they are probably not close enough for me to alternate, so I'm going to have a 3 and a 4, and I need to have a bit of a think about what I want to do with those. So it could still work as colour work, but certainly on its own is going to be a little bit of a challenge. Above that, I have some more plucky in here as well. This is Scholar, and this is in the Green Goddess colourway. And certainly plucky Scholar is something that I want to work up. I've got some more of it. Is it in here? Yes, up at the top. I'll talk about that in a second. But I really loved the Green Goddess colourway, and they had a sale on, and therefore it was inevitable. Above that, we have some yarn that I've been aching to work with for a while actually. This again is Madeline Tosh DK Twist, which is the base that I've knit the most sweaters out of ever. It's a really lovely, reasonably high twist merino base. It works really well for garments generally. It is superwash, but this is her Joshua Tree colourway, which in my mind is the perfect sort of olivey, huntery green colour. Love it, and that will become something. Do I have any specific patterns in mind? Probably not right now, although I have given serious thought to having another Morning in Engelberg sweater in that colour, which I think would be amazing. Above that, we've got some more Wollmeise blend. Again, this is the MCN base here, and this is in the Feldmäuschen, or the Little Field Mouse colourway, which is again a sort of perfect taupey beigey grey. It's a really lovely colour. I actually bought that initially to make a threshold jumper, but I think I was torn between using that and a slightly different yarn. I ended up trying the other yarn, and the gauge was off, so I might go back and do it with that at some point. But then Scholar, as I mentioned, up here at the top. So this is Plucky Scholar, which is a mix of merino cashmere, 75% merino, 25% cashmere. Let me get it to focus on it for you there. And this is in the Oatmeal colourway, so it is the perfect kind of neutrally beige colour. Oops, it is not wishing to focus. There we go. Now this I bought enough to make a stone cutter, which I've talked in previous episodes about how I have a little bit of a fangirly moment over Michelle Wong and some of the patterns that she's knit and designed, in particular stone cutter. I did try and, I did cast it on. I knit, I would say, a good few inches on the front, but I just wasn't feeling it at the time, and so I think I actually ripped it out rather than left it lying dormant, so I could decide if I wanted to use this yarn for it or something else. I do really like this yarn. I do still quite want that sweater. It's just not on the immediate agenda, so in the meantime it gets to hang out in my stash. And then the other yarns in here that I just missed talking around, so I've got 3 skeins in here. That again is Madeline Tosh Shock in her merino silk base, and those are 3 skeins in Dust Bowl. I bought those to make another, I think I bought those originally to make the Lemmy K shawl, which is a shawl that I ended up knitting in DK Twist in her Fog colourway, which is this perfect kind of grey washed tealy green. possibly because these didn't arrive in time. I think I went round the houses with these. I might have ordered them from either Eat Sleep Knit or Jimmy Bean's Wool, I forget, but they took a lot longer to come than I was hoping for, so I think I cast on with Fog instead. But those will be perfect at some point for another great big cozy DK weight shawl. And so shuffling along, we have a couple of sets of sweater quantities in here that will be familiar to you as well. This row on the bottom here is the Lisa Souza that I picked up in Rhinebeck earlier on the year, the Polworth Silk Blend, which is beautiful and will become something that's quite lovely and drapey at some points, possibly a cardigan, I am not quite sure. But above that I have 6 skeins of Vullenvine. This is her Smith & DK base, which is her MCN DK weight in Dead Calm, which is a tealy blue-green colourway of hers that I adore. Not to say that I don't adore all of her colours, but this one particularly has my heart. And again, that is destined to be a sweater of some sort, not sure which one. And immediately above that I have 6 skeins of limited edition Super Soft DK, which is a Madeline Tosh base that was exclusive for a little while to her website, in the Boom Slang colourway, which is a perfect, really beautiful deep emerald green that I adore. I'd originally bought this with the intention of making a grandpa cardigan by Joji Locatelli, which was a pattern that a few of my friends were working on at the time. I did not get around to working on it in time, and thus it has been marinating here quite happily, but that one is possibly still on the agenda. Above it I have a green that doesn't look quite as kind of icy mint green as it does on the screen in real life. It is a little bit more kind of super bright spearmint kind of colour rather than the kind of icy blue which is on your screen just now, if my camera is anything to go by. But this is a sweater quantity that, again, I've talked about the fact I don't really suit mint green, and therefore I need to have a bit of a think about what I'm going to be doing with this. But again, this is Madeline Tosh DK Twist, and this is in the... is this Hosta Blue? I think this might be Hosta Blue colourway, which again is a really nice, very kind of bright, quite light, tealy, almost bordering on spearminty green colour. And above that I have a little bit more of the Madeline Tosh Merino worsted. This time this is in, is this Memory, I think, which is a really, really pretty blue grey. It looked a little bit more of a true grey than it was a blue grey when I bought it. As it is, it's come and it's almost light blue in some lights, very, very light blue. So again, I need to have a bit of a think about whether or not that's going to work for me, but in the meantime, it lives here and it's all good. And then we have some skeins that you'll probably recognise. Again, this is the TML in Kenobi that I brought back, rather Tosh Merino DK in Kenobi that I brought back from the US, as I talked around on episode 6. And right up here at the top I have some Walcott Opus, which is a fabulous, fabulous fingering weight yarn that I bought earlier on in the year at Unravel. It's also a yarn that I featured very quickly earlier on this month in my vlog when I went to Bath and went to a yarn story because they stock this yarn, and it's also in Tribe as well, but it is a 70% merino, 30% alpaca blend, baby alpaca blend, and it is lovely to work with. I originally bought this to knit a pattern that was sold alongside it, so it was sold by a yarn story called Twisted Tracks, which I think was designed by one of the ladies that works in a yarn story. Since then I've seen Ellie's Hay Sweater, which was actually knit using, or it was designed using those yarns, and Ellie knit it with that yarn, and I've been coveting it rather inappropriately, so that may have to happen instead. And then last but certainly not least is the cubbyhole over here with some blues and some greys, and I have proof to you, first and foremost, that I do actually use things from my stash, because right down here at the bottom, which I can take out now on the basis that I'm going to need to wind it up fairly soon, is my Plucky Knitter in the Yak Paca that I've been using for my fern and feather. So just so you know, it was in my stash. I took it out of my stash. I use things that are in my stash. I know people get very upset when I buy extra yarn that my stash is sitting here unloved, but in my personal opinion, hello, I'll sneak in here for this, I consider basically everything that comes into my house stash, because it will all end up in here at some point or another. It might end up here very briefly, it might have a fairly prolonged stay, but either way, it's all stash. So good news, I'm definitely using it. Above that we have some of the work sock yarn that I brought back again from the US, this time in the leopard colourway, and then some Volmizer DK, this time in Admiral, which is a really dark, it's a very much a true navy blue colour. And again, I think I bought that at one point to make a cardigan and then decided that this gauge wasn't going to work for me on the basis that DK weight for me from Volmizer knits up probably more like a sport personally. And so I will say that that is probably going to marinate for a little bit longer when I work out what to do with it. Above it I have some more Madeline Tosh fingering weights, the MCN fingering, and this is in the deep colourway, which is a really pretty variegated, very dark, almost navy, but not quite. I have a sweater in Nocturne, which is the darkest, deepest blue that they do. This is definitely a little bit lighter with some teal in there too. Again, not sure what that's going to be. I have 5 skeins of Jill Draper's Cormo, so this is her sport weight Cormo in the true blue colour, which is really lovely. And actually I recently, when I bought the extra skeins of the Hasbrook Avenue for the Kingston, or the Kingston yarn I mentioned right over at the other end, I also bought a skein in a much lighter blue with the intention of using this for some colour work, so that will be on the agenda at some point. Above that I have some more skeins of Madeline Tosh DK Twist, this time in the Blue Stowe colourway, which I really enjoy, and again I bought enough of that to use it as a sweater quantity, not entirely sure which one for. And then very lastly up here we have some more Volmizer blend, this time in the Hammam colourway, which is a properly stunning turquoise. Let me do that so you can see. So yeah, Volmizer in the Hammam colourway there. And so there you have it, stash tour complete, at least the bits that I'm willing to share publicly. There's a reason that I have cubby holes for this section underneath, but yeah, that is all my sweater quantities. You've seen the contents of the stash wall. As ever, if there are any skeins that you're desperate to know a little bit more about, by all means do leave me a comment either here or over on Ravelry, and I will endeavour to answer any questions that you may have. But for the most part, yeah, hopefully you just now see how much I enjoy my stash. And I do have, albeit kind of loosely, I've got ideas for what I want to use a lot of this for. They're not necessarily fixed in stone. I am not a person who has a shopping list of yarns and exact projects matched up with them. It's just really not in my nature. But I do really enjoy being able to go to Squish to experience them and just use them for whatever strikes my fancy, really. And so I am going to wind up this bad boy here and continue working on the sleeves of my Fern and Feather, because, spoiler alert, I'm on the sleeves of my Fern and Feather. I know. And I'm probably going to wind up my little Homespun House Mini and try and get that crocheted into my blanket as well, because that's going alright. I'm managing to keep it up on a daily basis. But I hope you enjoyed today's vlog. It was a little bit different from what I've been trying to do. I want to try and share London with you so that you can see it getting ready for Christmas and all the festivities and enjoy that vicariously too. But I guess it's an opportunity for me to share my stash a little more widely as well, which for the most part I don't think any of you have too many objections to. So hopefully you enjoyed that, and I look forward to speaking to you again tomorrow. Have a wonderful evening. Bye!